Hello everyone. Today in this video lecture we are going to discuss the concept of files in C programming. So first of all I will tell you what a file is. A file can be considered as a collection of data which is stored on a secondary storage device like a hard disk. So we can say that a file is created in order to store the data on permanent basis. There are mainly two types of files, text files and binary files. Text files are the normal text files which can be easily created using any simple text editor like Notepad. So whenever you open these kind of files, you will see all the contents as a plain text. Next comes the binary files. So binary files are mostly the dot bin files in your computer where the data is stored in the form of binary, that is in the form of zeros and ones. So file operations can be categorized into four categories, that is creating a new file, opening an existing file, closing a file, reading from and writing information to a file. So we will discuss all these file operations one by one. So first is creating a new file and opening an existing file. Whenever you want to work with a file, the first step that you will perform is to create a file. As I have already told you, a file can be considered as a space in memory where data can be stored. So in order to create a file in C programming, this syntax is used, that is file followed by file pointer. Then using that file pointer, you can open a file using fopen function. In fopen function considers two arguments, that is file name and the mode. File name is the name of the file which you want to open, and mode is the mode, that means mode defines the purpose for which you want to open that particular file. So as I have already told you, fopen is a standard function that is used to open a file. So if the file is not present on the system, then it will be created and then it will be opened. But if a file is already present on the system, then it is directly opened using the fopen function. Next, I am going to tell you the file modes. So whenever you want to open or create a file, you have to specify the purpose for which you want to open the file, and that is known as file mode. So a file in C programming can be created or opened for reading or writing purposes. So there are different types of modes in C programming which can be used, which I am going to tell you in the succeeding slides. So these are the file modes using which you can open the file. So number one is R mode. So R mode is used to open a file for reading purpose. So if a file is in reading mode, then no data is deleted if a file is already present on the system. Next comes the W mode, which opens the file for writing purpose. If a file is in writing mode, then a new file is created if a file does not exist at all. But if a file is already present on the system, then all the data inside the file is truncated and it is opened for writing purposes. Third one is A mode, which opens the file in append mode. If a file is in append mode, then the file is opened. The content within the file doesn't change. R plus, which is an extension to the write mode, and it opens the file for reading and writing from the beginning. W plus, which is an extension to the W mode, and it opens the file for reading, writing and overwriting a file. A plus mode, that means it opens the mode for reading and writing, that is you can append the data to the file using A plus mode. Next comes the closing operation. So once you have opened the file and you have performed all the operations on the file, then you need to close the file. It means the contents and links to the file need to be terminated using closing function. So closing function prevents accidental damage to the file. So in order to close a file, C provides the closing function, that is the fclose function. So the syntax of fclose is fclose followed by file pointer. So as shown in this example, first of all, fp pointer of file type has been created. Then using fopen function, data textual file has been opened in read mode and that pointer has been assigned to the FP. Then once you have performed all the required operations on the data.txt file, then you need to close the file using fclose function followed by the file pointer, that is FP, as in this example. So we can say that the file associated with the file pointer is closed with the help of fclose function. So if the fclose was successful, it will return you 0. And if there is an error while closing function, then it will return EOF, that is end of file. After closing the file, the same file pointer can be used with other files. Next comes reading and writing to text file. So in order to read and write to a text file, we use the functions fprintf and fscanf. They are just the file versions of printf and scanf. So the only difference is that fprintf and fscanf expects a pointer to the structure file type. So this is an example where a return operation has been performed to a text file. So first of all, the required header files have been included. Then inside the main function, first of all, a num variable of integer type has been created. Then a file pointer, that is fptr, has been created of file type. Then using fopen function, program textual file has been opened in W mode. And then we are checking the fptr. That means if fptr is pointing to some valid file type or not. So if a file pointer is pointing to the null, that means there is an error in opening a file, and in that case we are printing error message on the screen, and in that case we are exiting the program using exit function. But if a pointer is pointing to some valid type, then in that case we are taking a number from the user using scanf function. And then once we have taken the number from the user, then we are writing that number into the file using fprintf function, which takes pointer then followed by the number which you want to write on that particular file. So once the return operation has been performed, we are closing the file pointer using fclose function. So in this example, we will discuss how to read from a text file. So in order to read from a text file, first of all, a num variable has been created of integer type. Then a file pointer has been created of file type. So as we have done in the previous example, we are checking whether a file pointer is pointing to some valid type or not. But before checking that, first of all, we are opening a file, that is program.txt file, using fopen function in the read mode, and then we are assigning that pointer to the fptr. Then we are checking if the fptr points to null. If yes, then in that case we are printing a message, that is error opening file, onto the screen, and in that case we are exiting the program using exit function. But if fptr, that is file pointer, is pointing to some valid type, then in that case we are reading the particular integer value from the file using fscanf function followed by fptr and the number which you want to read. Once you have read the particular integer value from the file, then we are printing that value onto the screen using simple printf function. And once the read operation is done, after that we are closing the file pointer using fclose function. Next, how to read and write to a binary file. So functions fread and fwrite are used to reading from and writing to a file onto the disk in case of binary files. So in order to write to a binary file, you need to use the fwrite function, and this function takes 4 arguments. Number 1 is address of data, that is to be written in the disk, size of data to be written in the disk, number of such type of data, pointed to the file where you want to write. So as shown in this syntax, fwrite function takes address of data, size of data, how many numbers of such type of data, and pointed to the file type. So let us consider an example of write operation to binary file. So in this case we are considering a structure 3 num, where we are taking 3 integers, n1, n2 and n3 of integer type. Then inside the main function, first of all we are taking a simple integer value or integer variable, we can say that, and then we are taking num variable of structure type, that is of 3 num. Then we are creating a file pointer variable, and then we are opening a file in WB. WB means we are opening a file in write mode, and that is WB, that is we are opening a binary file in write mode, right? So once you have opened the file, then you are checking the file pointer if that is pointing to null or not. If a file pointer is pointing to null, then in that case we are printing a message error opening file, and after that we are exiting the program. But if a file pointer fptr is pointing to some valid file type, then what we are doing, we are taking a for loop from 1 to 4. Then what we are doing, we are assigning n to n1 of structure type, then 5 into n, n2 integer variable of structure type, then 5 into n plus 1 to n3 of n3 integer variable of structure type. Then once you have saved the values to n1, n2 and n3 of 3 num structure type, then what we are doing, we are writing those values onto the binary file using fwrite function, where we are first of all we are considering the address of num variable of structure type, then size of the structure, then we are considering only one kind of such one type of data, then after that file pointer, that is fptr. Once you have done the write operation, then after that we are closing the file pointer using fclose function. Then how to read from a binary file? So function fread is used to read from a binary file, and just like fwrite function, fread also takes 4 arguments like address of data, size of data, numbers of data and pointer to the file type. So this is an example using which we can read from a binary file. So similar to the previous case, here we are also considering a structure 3 num, in which we are taking 3 integers n1, n2 and n3. Then inside the main function we are creating a variable of structure type 3 num, then we are taking a pointer variable fptr, then we are opening a file program.bin binary file in read mode using rb mode, and then we are checking if fptr is pointing to null or not. If fptr is pointing to null, then in that case we are printing error opening file onto the screen, and then we are exiting the program. But if a fptr is pointing to some valid type, then in that case we are taking the for loop ranging from 1 to 4. Then what we are doing, we want to read those values of n1, n2, n3 from structure type. So for that purpose we are using fread function, and then we are taking the address of structure variable, then we are taking the size of structure, then there is only one kind of data, then we are taking file ptr. Once we have read the structure structure variable values from the file, then what we are doing, we are printing those values onto the screen using simple printf function. Once you have done all these operations, then you need to close the file using fclose function followed by the file pointer. So in this way we are I hope you all will be able to understand the concept of file and the file operations, like creating a file, opening a file, reading and writing from a binary file, reading and writing from a text file, and then finally closing the file. So thank you so much for listening to this video.